I recently had the good privilege of returning home to my native state, Indiana, to be the keynote speaker at a BHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers event just north of Indianapolis. When I got there, I told the crowd it had been probably 7 years since I stood in front of a group and talked about hunting, and a lot had changed in that time period. So I really didn't know what they were going to get, but we were going to find out together. And I guess during this podcast today, you'll find out what we talked about too. I'm Brandon Butler.
I'm Nathan Shags McLeod.
And I'm Jameson Hibbs.
Welcome to the Drifting Outdoors podcast. Well, Brandon, before we get into that, I got to say I was very happy that I didn't get a lot of backlash after my Ted Nugent rant. I actually had a couple of people agree that, that they were not as big of fans as that guy as I was. So the reels are going to go out soon, so I'll be curious to see if people still are okay with the rant from last week. But man, that got me so fired up. I was laughing about how angry I was about that after the podcast.
Well, I listened to Tom Opry's new podcast, Shepherd of the Wild, I think it's called, and Tom's been on our show. He's got a new film out called The Real Yellowstone. So your Batman voice is back, Shags. And it has a lot to do with ranching lifestyle and what's going on with the American Prairie Reserve in north central Montana. And he had Ted on to talk about it. So I listened, and I would like my AI chatbot to figure out how many times the word I was used in that podcast. I mean, if you took the word I out, it would have dropped it by at least 10 minutes. It's just, and God bless them. God bless Ted and so many of these other guys that are the same way. But the like craving to hold on to relevance at his age, 77, like, dude, just quit, like go fishing. You know, like you did some cool things in your life and now you're shitting all over that legacy. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, just keep hunting behind a high fence or out of helicopters, buddy. Like, knock it off. But I didn't want to get back right into my dislike and hatred for Ted Nugent. I want this to be more about backcountry hunters and anglers and the future and all the great things we have to look forward to. So, yeah, why don't you guys just get right into this past weekend, Brandon, you being one of the keynote speakers.
Well, Jameson didn't introduce himself by title when we started, but he's a regional director. Go ahead and tell people what the official title is and where you cover for BHA.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I should have done that. My apologies. So Jameson Hibbs, like I said, I am a chapter coordinator for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and I cover 10 of our states, primarily in the Midwest, but on down into the south into Georgia, and then a couple of our Great Plains states. Southeast, I guess you can kind of consider Arkansas, and then Oklahoma is as far west as my chapters go. So I've been a part of BHA. I've been a part of BHA since 2019 in Indiana. Became a part of their chapter, became the chapter chair, which is kind of our term for chapter president in 2020, 2021. Then I took this role in 2022. Started off with 5 states. Now I have 10. So it's rolling well.
Tell people a little bit about BHA. Some may not know the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, we just did our 20th anniversary last year. So we're 21 years old now. And it started off around a campfire in Oregon with a group of guys talking about, we have advocacy groups, conservation groups for specific animals. We have obviously Army F, we have Trout Unlimited, we have some other great orgs out there. But what do we have really protecting those lands and those waters that we all share, our public lands and waters? So kind of the idea of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers was established. And that's kind of been our mission ever since. It's kind of seeking to ensure that we have those wild spaces, those wild lands open to the public, all of our shared lands for hunting and fishing opportunities. And then we work, to create sound habitat. So, it was a very Western-centric organization for a long time. And then it slowly migrated to the East. So now we have chapters in every state. And, we have one chapter per state. I know a lot of other orgs have multiple. We just have one. So we have chapter leaders around the entire state covering the region. And they kind of run a gamut of different events from the event like we just had this past weekend, where it's kind of a conservation message / like a fundraising event. And then we do a lot of social events, which might be pint nights at local breweries, or we do coffee chats like at a local establishment, having coffee in the mornings, talking about conservation. And we do a lot of great stewardship projects, which we can dive into later. But the stewardship might cover anywhere from, invasive species removal to native restoration projects to finch removals, which you do a lot of out west, maybe wood duck habitat or wood duck box builds. So, I mean, it's the nice thing about BHA not being critter specific is everything we do out there is for the entire ecosystem. And that's what draws a lot of people into BHA is we don't focus on one particular species out there. And what really drew me to BHA, and I can get back into that later on. I came from the parks and recreation world, so I was a property manager in Indiana over a few different properties over the course of 16 years. So I was in the public property or public space realm then. But what I liked about it was the fact that we're dedicating ourselves to keeping these spaces open, and the fact that I walked into those BHA events, I saw people around my age. And that's one thing BHA is kind of prides itself on right now is, our demographics are roughly 45, 46, Brandon, 46 and younger. And so we're kind of that younger crowd, unlike a lot of other conservation orgs. So we represent a pretty young demographic. And then when you get into politics, which we don't like to do that, but what I like about BHA too is we're pretty much 1/3 independent, 1/3 left, 1/3 right. So we all know how to meet in that middle and have great conversations about things that we all agree on, and which is conservation in the outdoors. So it provides a great space for a lot of cool people. And that's one thing I hear a lot of at every event I go to, and myself included, is you hear people walk away saying, I found my people. Because you walk into that room and you see people with smiles, willing to share waypoints and onX. They may not be the right ones. They may be lies. but they're willing to at least share stories and swap tactics. So, I mean, then you walk away feeling like, holy shit, I just found some really cool individuals that I can't wait to hang out with again. That's kind of the essence of BHA.
That's great to hear, too, because in today's world, it doesn't seem like any of us can get along. And to have that type of mixed bag, to be able to come together and there's no infighting or bickering or pointing fingers, it's pretty special, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was pleased at this event because the speaker before me, he talked about oak trees and the birds that live there. There was not a mention of a deer or a turkey, so he knew he was talking to a crowd of hunters and anglers. It's in the name, but he was still delivering a message of conservation. And it was refreshing to be in a room full of people who both hunt but also have concern for, non-game species like little thrushes or sparrows or birds that you'll never shoot at. You just get to enjoy sharing the earth with them. So I appreciate that sort of mentality that seems to ring through BHA. The organization has been fun to watch develop. I remember when BHA was just getting started, one of my heroes we talk about frequently, Don Thomas, was either at that campfire or close to it. I mean, involved early out in Montana. And then I feel like, Lantani came in and brought a lot of energy, but the meat eater connection, like as Ranella blew up, so blew up BHA. It was kind of a parallel. And got up to a plateau and then just watched it spread across the country. I mean, I don't know, Jameson, how many years ago was it that the Indiana chapter was created? I mean, it's been within the last probably 10, right?
Yeah, just 2018. So, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of our eastern states, especially the smaller states like Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, they didn't start till about 2017 to 2020. Some bigger states like Michigan have a lot of public lands up there. They started back, I want to say 2014, Pennsylvania, New York, a little bit earlier as well. But, a lot of our smaller states in the Midwest started around that 2018 era. Missouri, I think around the same time. I can't quite quote that, but, that's the thing. We had all this explosion of growth, and a lot of that happened, 2016, 2017, when we had that huge issue out west, the public land grab that we'll probably talk about in a minute too, that just occurred. And that's really exploded. The BHA mission is, holy shit, we can't let these lands go to privatization. So and that's when land got involved. Obviously, land has a very charismatic, loud voice. People just topped on the bandwagon of BHA, and it was fantastic. A lot of our states, like I'm over, like I said, started about that 2019 era, and then that silly year of 2020 happened. So it kind of put everything to a halt for a while. But I can say, in the past 4 years since COVID really has kind of waned down, we've definitely grown substantially in these Midwest states, and it's been fun to watch.
And the organization's really in a moment of transition again. So Land was there for 10 years. And as you said, I mean, Land is going to be the loudest voice in the room, no matter what room it is. And that has a lot of good qualities to it. But then the organization swung very far in the other direction and brought in a guy named Patrick Barry, who East Coaster, former state director of game and fish for Vermont, far more reserved. And it's like the pendulum swung so far, and he made it only about 18 months. So BHA is back in the hunt for their next leader. And I talked to Ryan Callahan about it, and he's the chairman of the board right now. And, they're looking for somebody that can really kind of balance that out, do a little bit of both. And then, the next leader is really going to have the opportunity to shape the direction of BHA, because it's still pretty much in its infancy.
Yeah, I would say BHA it's at a pretty good pendulum point right now where, like you just said, I think we find that middle point between Land and Patrick. Patrick came in at a good time. He did some really good stuff for BHA. He helped us out, kind of restructuring internally. I would say right now, since I've been a part of BHA, we probably have some of the strongest staff members on the team. And then you throw in the North American board, we have some amazing people on that North American board that are really interested in being more hands-on with the organization and kind of taking it to the next level. So I think whomever comes in next is going to come into I know they're going to come into a group of people ready to really kick some butt out there in the conservation space. I mean, I can't say enough of good things about the people that I work with. It's nice being a part of this team.
I was gonna say, you're on mute, Brandon. I thought you were gonna say something. I saw the red microphone with it.
I was waiting for you.
But talk about some of the fights that BHA has gotten into in the past of helping even our Missouri guys, the corner crossers, with some of their defense funds and some of those kind of court battles that are happening out west.
Yeah, so happy to. So, if people are in the outdoor space at all and do any sort of Western hunting or have an idea about it, I mean, we have this thing called corner crossing that occurred out in Wyoming in Carbon County on a little place called Elk Mountain. And funny enough, and I worked at a guest ranch in Wyoming back in 2004, 5, and 6 in Carbon County, about 15 miles south of Elk Mountain. So I'm pretty familiar with that area. And I worked with some people that used to work for Eshelman that owns Elk Mountain Ranch. And there's been several cases going back into the 80s that I don't know a whole lot about, but about corner crossing, which is why it was kind of in the radar of a lot of our elected officials out west. But you have the Missouri 4, which I'm sure you guys have interviewed them, haven't you?
We have.
Brad and Phil, two of the 4. Brad and Phil.
Yeah, they went out west. They had they had scouted these areas out. They saw these blocks of public land where, hey, we can hop over there by building a stile or basically a ladder to get over there, and they did. And then you have these corporate folks who think they own the sky, the land, and the earth, and everything in between, believing that we can't do that. The airspace is theirs, and if we hop over a corner, we're trespassing on their land, which is total BS. I mean, it's ours. So those guys did a hell of a job. They went out there. I believe they were pretty successful, and that's what really pissed off the ranch manager. And one thing led to another. You had law enforcement out there, and longer story shorter, they've been in court battles now since 2019 when that first occurred, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure what year it was, but it's been going on a while, and hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised by BHA and used on their legal defense.
Yes.
I mean, what's so cool about the story, and we've talked about it a number of times, is like those guys didn't look for this fight. They just literally thought they found a loophole and tried to take it. But then the fight came to them, and they didn't back down, and they're still going. Right. It's so frustrating to even think about that. Some rich person buys 10,000 acres and laughs because they think they're going to get another 10,000 for free because they're locking it up from you. And it's just such poetic justice to see that go away, It
is.
But and to try to take it all the way to the Supreme Court, it's just ridiculous.
They are, and there's a lot of folks, a lot of lot of those people that are in his corner, unfortunately, that think that they're going to take this to the Supreme Court and maybe win it back. And then what? I mean, then which I don't believe they will. So I'm not even going to talk about and then what, because I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to stay in our court. And then one day I'm going to get out there and I'm going to go on some of those pieces of property, and I can't wait to do it. I can say that the Wyoming chapter, they were one of the first people to really hop on that and support those guys and start raising the funds. And then we had an attorney out of California, if I remember correctly, pro bono, write the amicus brief for us to really kind of get a lot of that traction rolling. So, like you said, Brandon, BHA has been kind of the leading part of helping those guys fight this battle from the funding source, and then providing any sort of extra effort that's been available.
I hope that Brad actually mass produces his ladder, and every Western hunter buys one, and these guys get rich off of it, just for all they've been through. Meat Eater should acquire the product and blow it up and give the proceeds to them dudes.
Heck yeah. I was hoping we would have one out at Rendezvous in Montana back in June, and we could have everyone get their picture bite or something. But
the First Light corner crossing ladder.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, another favorite aspect of BHA of mine is Mr. Hal Herring. So the fact that, Hal is the voice of BHA on the podcast and has been from the start. Both Shags and myself have been guests on that podcast with Hal. Hal's been on with us a couple of times. I mean, he's just my hero. I love that dude. Funny story. He was telling me the other day, like kind of hanging his head a little bit, saying, I only live on this amount of money. And I said, Hal, that's your fault. Like, that's the cost of living an untethered life. I go, I'll have you a 6-figure job by the end of the week if you want one. And a couple of days later, I sent him a link to one, and all I got back was a thumbs up emoji. Now he's out there planting trees again. We can't have it all, and he lives an untethered life. And I just love that about him.
Yeah, he's a tremendous asset for BHA in the conservation space. I can't imagine going into this without him. Really kind of was one of our forefront leaders in this.
He's one of the few people that I swear I could just read a phone book. It's just his delivery and that little bit of that twang that he's got in his voice. It's just so soothing. Love it.
He's like a character from a Cormac McCarthy book. He should have been in No Country for Old Men or something like that, just walking around out in the desert with some big Magnum revolver, blasting a rattlesnake once in a while, and then letting another one live to balance it out. Got to balance that rattlesnake herd, man.
I was really hoping you would do your entire presentation at our event this past week.
In the Hal Herring Boys?
Yeah, I really wanted you to. I thought, man, that'd have been perfect. It'd be like, I was there.
I don't know if I could do it that long, man. He's the best.
How did that go, Brandon? That was a nice little segue from Jameson there. How did you think your presentation went?
How did it go, Jameson?
Oh, I think it was spot on, man. Brandon gave a great presentation. I don't want to take it away from him, but I'd say everyone walked away really not quite knowing. We knew Brandon was going to talk about conservation. That's kind of how we marketed and promoted him being there. But his topic that he went down was kind of the integrity of the modern day hunter, and I think it kind of resonated with everyone that was there. But it's easy, and especially myself included. It gives you a chance to kind of sit back and reflect and think about where have you been, where are you now, where are you going to go in the future, and I think that's what Brandon helped a lot of people see that evening.
Well, I appreciate that. So I got up in front of the crowd and. To back up a little bit, I guess I messaged with Jameson a couple of days before, like, should I have a PowerPoint presentation or is this just a walk around the state? Last time I did this, it was with Clay Newcomb. We were down in Springfield and Jason Sumners. That was the lineup, us three. And we just got handed a microphone. There was no PowerPoint. And he was like, well, the guy before you is going to have a PowerPoint. And I said, all right, well, I'll try to put something together. So I had my handy dandy chat bot, my new personal assistant for everything, help me build a PowerPoint presentation. It's the best one I ever made. Like, it's unbelievable. But it's the cabin, Chags. Like I'm going to have to show this to you. We'll save it for another podcast because it's just not. But I took all 350 images of the trail camera watching the cabin burn down every 30 seconds, and I condensed it into about a 45-second video. So last Saturday was the first time I like hit play and watched the cabin burn down from the moment you see the alleged arsonist walking away with light coming from the window until I walk up the driveway. And the last frame is so poetic. It's the mayor just standing there with this like dumbfounded look on his face, just wondering, oh shit, you know? So that was pretty powerful, but I'd kind of gone through the whole story of the cabin. I figured most people in that room, if they knew anything of me, that's probably what they would know. And it started with just the bare land and the progression of tearing down the old cabin, repurposing it, the deer camps, the family, the friends, all the swimming in the creek, you know, and just showed like the progression of it being. There's a picture of you on the chop saw on the front porch, you know, taking down some lumber, paddle down, nailing up some boards, the Ray family, Cooper, you know, like all the people. And then it like went to the picture of him on the front porch, like walking past the front porch to go around and go in the window and burn it. So at the end, I said, what I'm really struggling with today as a hunter is the fact that that person and those people that he did this in retaliation for, they call themselves hunters. And like, I don't want to share any words with them. Like, I don't want to be in that same bucket with them. And if I think about a lot of hunters, unfortunately, so many of the loud ones on social media, you know, they tend to go more in that direction. And we as hunters are not going to determine whether or not hunting exists in the future. So these like 500 crazy people, maybe CWD mouth, you know, pieces, whatever, like a drop in the bucket of the overall population of the more than 500,000 people that actually buy a deer license every fall. But still, the larger population isn't going to be who makes hunting legal or illegal. It's going to be like the 93% of Americans who do not hunt, who have traditionally supported us hunters because they think, well, Uncle Jack hunts and Uncle Jack's a pretty good guy and he cooks deer meat sometimes. That was cool when we had deer spaghetti or a deer roast at Thanksgiving. And it's neat how like the family gets together and you know, Uncle Jack and Uncle Pete and Aunt Mary and everybody goes, and it's a family tradition. Well, in my belief, like that's dying rapidly. There's very little community around hunting anymore. It's become a competitive sport. It's about ego, and we've lived through it. Like we're the generation that lived through it. It started in kind of the early 90s on TNN, Tennessee Nashville Network. And some of those early shows were amazing, and I was a huge fan. And then it went kaboom, and all of a sudden there's 450 shows. And I talked about like the disgustingness of that. And there was a guy in the room who I won't out him, but he came up to me after the talk and knew exactly what I was talking about. And I talked about like an early introduction to TV hunting, and I found this report from 2006. It's the Midwest Deer and Wild Turkey Study Group meeting that took place at the Boy Scout camp in Bloomington, Indiana, August 20th, 20th through the 23rd of 2006. So, you know, roughly 20 years ago. And I thought it was interesting that, you know, Operation Roadhouse shags that we've talked about here, like the undercover sting on the paddlefish with the KGB.
Yeah, and
so it's crazy to think like conservation does a lot of undercover stuff, but they do. And in Indiana, they had an Operation Orion, an undercover investigation into a high-fenced facility owned by Russ Beller, who was a game breeder that conducted hunts for specific bucks that had been drugged and placed in a 6-acre pen with bait. 2 undercover agents booked a hunt, 2 bucks for $24,000. A self-narrated PowerPoint presentation was blah, blah, blah. a DVD was distributed that included video of a drugged deer being propped up for the hunters to shoot. So I've seen the video. I can't find it. My chat bot can't find it online, but that person in the crowd thinks he still has the DVD. Very famous outdoor celebrity. No reason to kick this dude right now over it, but Beller pled guilty, got 1 year in federal prison and a fine greater than $500,000. But I can't even tell you how disgusting this video was. Watching these guys, it would be like the drunkest you've ever been in your life, and you can't stand, and your friends are trying to stand you up. They get you to your feet, and then they scatter so you can get shot before you fall over. Like, and they can film it for TV. And that's where the hunting industry went. And those people created the generation of hunters that we're dealing with today. So the old red and black lumberjack that Biggie made famous isn't being worn. You know, it's not going up into the great North Woods. It's how many antler inches can I get this year to feed my ego? And people got sold that shit by celebrities killing drug deer in 6-acre pens. And as society figures out that it's no longer about food and tradition, and they see the guy with the chrome testicles hanging from his jacked up truck, you know, as the face of hunting, we're done for.
Well, who was the guy that the hunting influencer that just got arrested for shooting multiple bucks out of Kansas, like, and then taking one down to Oklahoma and trying to tag it in Oklahoma, like he shot it down there, and then he went back up to Kansas to shoot another one, and he put it all on film and put it out there.
Add him to the long list.
I can't remember. That's the sad thing, is it happens so many times I can't remember the guy's name because there's so many of them out there.
It's like another school shooting. It hurts, but you knew it was coming, you know.
Which it does seem like it happens annually now, doesn't it?
Yeah, a couple of them every single year. And I think social media is just influencing it even more, because nobody wants to see a harvest a doe or an eater. Like, everyone wants to see those giant antlers, and it makes people do stupid shit.
Yeah, antlers make people crazy. I think that's a Patrick Durkin quote. But I really want to do profiles on deer hunters. You know, like, we'll start with Jameson here. Jameson, why do you deer hunt?
Oh man, it's how much time do we have, right? You know, for me, oh man, there's so many answers I could give you. I think for me, first and foremost, I want to participate in nature because I feel like that's who we are. We're natural predators, and I feel like whenever I'm out there, I'm in my element. You know, it's funny, you know, not just deer hunting, but my wife, she's into holistic wellness. We talk a lot about being present, because it's so hard to be present nowadays because we have so many flashy objects all around us and technology in our fingertips, and everywhere we turn, our emails ring and our notifications are going off. But my one chance to be in the moment and be present is whenever I'm in the woods. So it's like a one opportunity for me to reflect, but just know what's going on in the moment, and that's it. And I think that's one of the big reasons why I realize I love to hunt so much now. On top of that, I do it for the food. I mean, I'm not going to lie, guys. I came into this when I was 13. I did not come from a hunting family. I grew up in West Central Indiana in Vigo County by Terre Haute, and that was in 93. So it came right at that time where it's all about big deer. And the people that I grew up hunting with, we wanted to see big bucks, but they shot everything that they saw because they wanted food in the freezer, and it was just for the fun. But I still grew up with that mentality of I need to wait and see that big deer, that big buck. And I stayed with that for a long time, but I also shot a ton of does. I mean, I was still out there to put food in the freezer, and maybe there's a population issue in some parts of Indiana, and there wasn't. I was hunting in Park County and Vigo County. I'm going to shoot as many does as I can, or legally can, and that's what I did. But food is foremost the main reason I'm out there. We don't buy any beef from the store. I mean, I go through 4 deer a year, if not more, if not 5. So that's the main reason I'd say I'm out there. Plus, it's also, man, if we want to see this tradition and heritage continue, we've got to be out there. Because if we do stop, who's going to pick it up? Nobody else is. It's kind of like, kind of comes back to the issue with less hunters in the woods now. That's not what, I mean, it's one of the many, many reasons why I do go out there. Like I said, I could talk about that for an hour, but that crosses my mind more now than it did 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, that if I stop doing this, my daughter is not going to pick it up, and people I know aren't going to pick it up because I've left the woods. So another reason I want to stay out there now is I want to show people the way. Because I feel like that circling back to that connection in nature through hunting is what a lot of people need.
How do you qualify a successful hunt?
Oh man, every hunt I come back from successful, right? I mean, and I'm serious. Every time I get home from the woods, I mean, I might be frustrated that I should have been over there because it's where I saw the deer and I have a stand there, or I have a blind, but I still come home a better person. I still come home feeling relaxed and revived. So, man, it's hard to quantify a successful hunt. Yeah, having meat in the freezer at the end of the season to me is a successful season, but that journey along the way throughout the season is what I consider success.
What does a buck have to look like? What does a buck have to look like for you to pull the trigger?
Oh man, I just moved to Kentucky in 2022 and I took this job. So I am no longer picky and I hunt only public lands. Back in Indiana, I was, my first parks job, I was in Park County, Indiana, which is known for a lot of big deer. And I had pretty good ground up there. And I saw a lot of big deer. I didn't shoot any big deer up there. I shot one decent 9-pointer, but I shot a lot of does and a few small bucks. But I also went about 10 years without shooting a buck. I think I shot probably 20 does in there, if not more. So still putting meat in the freezer. It's not just about the antlers either. There's also something about seeing that older, majestic animal in the woods. And that bigger rack does do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeing the mature buck out there because, like, holy shit, there's the elusive animal. The hardest one, honestly, to actually kill out there. So, I mean, there's still a feat to be had to chase that deer. Now, I'm not out there with 19 cameras and naming the deer, not my jam. I kind of like the element of surprise. I might run a camera occasionally. I have one. It's not even out in the woods yet, and season starts in a week. So, I mean, it tells you how dedicated I am to running cameras. Not very. Once I set my stand up, I'll put it up just to see what's coming by, but that's it. But it's, man, there's just like so many other rabbit holes I can go down about why I hunt. I love taking my daughter out there and seeing her. Well, I love taking my daughter out there and eating a lot of snacks because that's kind of what we do. You guys probably eat a lot of snacks, talk a lot, whisper a lot, and just kind of see her, witness the woods and the forest. So, I mean, that's another big one of my whys.
Hold on. So a couple questions. One, are you archery and rifle? Both archery?
I'm mainly archery, but I picked up the gun. I only archery hunted for a long time. I bought a muzzleloader back in Indiana, 2014 or 15, just to put more meat in the freezer. It's about the time we had our kiddo, so I needed more meat in the freezer. I felt like I'm going to start stocking up. If I may be getting one deer ahead of myself every year, that way, in case something happened the following year, we still had meat in the freezer. So I'd always take 2 or 3 with my bow, and then have that muzzleloader for backup if necessary.
Second question, what's your go-to deer stand snack with your daughter?
Oh, with my daughter? Oh, man. We don't eat, we eat pretty clean. And I know you just went through your fast, but we eat pretty clean in our house. But I do let her get a bag of Cheetos on the way to hunt. And that's like the one chance she has, the one time she has a chance to get a bag of like some chips that we don't typically keep in our household.
That was like when I was a kid going with my dad, and we'd stop at the gas station, and it was just kind of a free for all. There were no rules on what there. I mean, there was a budget, but we'd always get like powdered jelly donuts and pepperoni sticks. And by the time the sun came up and you started hunting, God, you had a stomach ache, but it was awesome.
Did you have a favorite go-to food?
I mean, now as an adult, and I'm trying to eat a lot healthier. But when
you were a kid, like
when I was a kid, it was always the raspberry-filled powdered donuts or the Tillamook pepperoni sticks. Those were always my go-to out deer hunting.
Mine was that little roll of donuts, the small ones, like the chocolate glazed. It was like I don't know, 6 or 8 of them in there, and a milk and donuts.
Milk and donuts. I was an oatmeal cream pie guy.
That's what, as an adult now, oatmeal cream pie. Like I do cheat during deer season. I'll buy a box of oatmeal cream pies, and they'll last like opening morning, and then again, I just got a stomach ache for the rest of the
See,
day.
that's like that stuff's instant heartburn for me now. I can't do those any sort of Hostess or snack foods. I dehydrate. I prep for deer season or for hunting season, and I dehydrate a ton of fruit. So I have a bunch of pineapples and apples and strawberries, and I've had my kiddo's been eating that since she was really small. We just call it fruit candy, and so she'll go through a bags of pineapple when we're out in the woods too. So I try to keep it healthy, as healthy as I can, but we still have to splurge on the chips for her.
No, that's funny.
And hot chocolate. Now, when I'm done, all my hunting clothes are just stained orange from her grabbing me or her touching my staff. I'm like, hell, now I gotta wash it again. I'm not a scent-free freak like I used to be. I don't really care about that anymore, but it's still want orange fingerprints all over my stuff.
Hunter Orange, man, being a
That's right.
thief out there.
Yeah. I'm not calling the wrong hunter if I smell like Cheetos.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm gonna run back to this report. There's a lot of interesting stuff in here. So it's an entire Midwest deer and turkey report from 20 years ago. We just talked about that situation in that 6-acre killing pen. Well, after that, Indiana developed a new exotic animal law that made it illegal to take white-tailed deer possessed under a game breeder's license. And the taking, possessing, and releasing of exotic animals also illegal. So basically, they attempted to end high-fenced hunting in Indiana. It basically prohibited mammals identified by 26 family names. It did allow for taking wild boar, and it allowed for humane slaughter. But the state was sued, and the state lost. So. What a crazy
follow the
story.
money, right? Follow the money.
Follow the money. So the regulations were shot down, and high fence hunting continues. But I think it's interesting if you just go kind of down the list. Illinois, first line, 2006. Use telecheck statewide for deer registration, except in 7 CWD counties. So they talk about the second round of statewide CWD surveillance. So this has been going on 20 years. So this is kind of why we're, I think, seeing some of this boiling point now is it's been going on 20 years. It's getting worse. You'd think with it getting worse, people would be like, oh, shit, we should do something. Instead, they're like, nah, let's just throw our hands up and we're just going to live with it. Indiana, you go down a little bit further. This is interesting. This was year 4 of the 1 buck rule instituted. So they saw just in that 4-year window, yearling buck harvest dropped from 55% of buck harvest to 50%. So 5% drop, which wasn't hugely significant, but man, then that snowball kicked off the hill and it started going downhill. But think about that. Prior to 2006, at least 55% of the buck harvest was still yearling bucks. So just 20 years ago, dudes were, if it's brown, it's down. If it's got an antler, it dies. And now the pendulum has swung this far to where we are today. It says Indiana sampled 1,200 deer for CWD. Reports that some meat processors are being told by the ag department that they will be shut down if a CWD positive deer goes through their business. So this is what we're running into. And this says right here, this is negatively affecting cooperation with sampling. It'll also negatively affect donations to Hunters Feeding the Hungry, which is their version of Share the Harvest. It's like all the negative blowbacks. In Iowa, 4,000 deer were sampled for CWD. In Kansas, they had their first CWD positive deer, a 3.5-year-old female, tested in the northwesternmost county near Colorado and Nebraska. Yeah. And then Kentucky, down there in Jameson's world, there's increasing interest in antler point restrictions. So this is when the big buck thing's starting to happen. Indiana goes to the 1 buck rule. Kentucky institutes antler point restrictions. 30 Boone and Crockett deer per year, and yearling buck percentages have dropped from 60 to 48% in 2005. But hunters want more, it says. Michigan, the total harvest was about 415,000 deer, down 10% from 2004. The UP population is down by maybe 50%. The southern lower is up by probably 30%. It's interesting to see. Not doing random CWD testing, just targeted surveillance. Interesting. Missouri, through 2004, they'd tested for 21,700 deer for CWD. Now only testing targeted suspects. This will be the third year of testing the use of antler point restrictions to shift harvest from bucks to antlerless deer. So all the way back in 2006, they were already trying to increase the amount of antlerless deer people were taking. Yeah. They're evaluating the use of more restrictive regulations on public lands to reduce harvest pressure on does. Well, that doesn't make sense because they're trying to get you to kill more does and then they're trying to reduce it. So I don't know. The total harvest was down 9%. It was 287,536. So 20 years later, we're like spot on. Like that's just about where we are right now. So we're maintaining that. Nebraska had a total harvest record of 61,000 deer. Tested 7,400 of them for CWD with 19 new positives. North Dakota harvest was 91,272 whitetails and 8,322 mule deer. Sampled 1,500 deer for CWD, none detected yet. Ohio, 1,500 deer sampled for CWD. South Dakota, 3,252 deer and elk tested for CWD, 14 new positives. So you go back 20 years, and every single state in the Midwestern group was reporting on CWD already, with some of the states being positive and some of them not. But I think that sheds light on kind of how we're starting to get to the point we're getting to, you know, the unknown that still is out there, the fact that there's really no hope for a cure. I still believe in trying to hold the line and doing the best you can until something can come along. But we're going to get the Indiana deer biologist on here that was on the panel with me at this BHA event, because his theory is like, we're not going to call, because given enough time, we're going to end up in the same place anyways. So, but here's so here's some ammunition for the follow the money guys. I'll just throw it out there that in Indiana, the DNR constitutes everything outdoors. So the DNR is oil and gas leases, clean water, state parks, and there's a division called Fish and Game. In Missouri, you've got the DNR, the division of DNR, which has a 1/10 cent sales tax. It pays for our state parks, which is why we go free, pays for our soil and water conservation districts. And there's significant general revenue funding for DNR outside of that for all the oil and gas, environmental stuff. So I don't know what the total budget of DNR is, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars here in Missouri. We also have the Department of Conservation with the 1/8 cent sales tax that's generating somewhere around 120, 130 million a year. And you can basically double that almost with licensed sales, Dingle Johnson, Pittman Robertson, and other incomes. So MDC's budget, let's just spitball and say it's somewhere around $250 million. The Indiana Division of Fish and Wildlife, that's essentially handling the same things MDC's handling. What do you think their budget is? Either one of you take a shot. 250 in Missouri.
Yeah, I should know this. I want to say I'm going to just throw a number out there about 20 million, but I don't think it's even that much. And I should know the answer to this.
I was going to get 10.
It's $12 million.
Oh, almost
Oh,
said
damn,
that.
I went over. You won, Jags.
They're allowed to
$1,
get
Bob.
business cards. The employees of the Fish and Wildlife Division are allowed to get business cards if they pay for them themselves.
Well, where's the follow the money people that keep saying that we're getting all this funding from the federal government to line our pockets
Yeah.
to go out CWD? Why wouldn't all the other states be lining their pockets with this free federal money? And
Yeah, he says they have no money to do anything, so nothing can be done. If I could do
I'm
anything,
curious.
I think if I could do anything for the rest of my life, I would run the initiative to get Indiana a sales tax for conservation. That could be my magnus opus for the end of my life.
Like I said, it's been discussed. I sit on a couple of committees when I was the Indiana chair about funding sources for DNR and for Fish and Wildlife, and the tax was discussed, but it was and it probably has been for years. But then I just think people are honestly afraid to really go forward and try.
Well, you just got to break it down for people. I mean, nobody's going to get excited about paying a tax. So what you have to do is you have to show them how they're going to pay less tax.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, it's all funded by general revenue. That's all tax money. You just don't know how much tax money is being taken from your lump sum. You know, when they come in and they shovel a big lump of your money out of your paycheck, and then they take it back into the counting room and divide it up into these different areas. You don't know what percentage of your money is going to DNR right now, but some of it is. If you live in Indiana. Wouldn't you rather just know that every single person is paying the same amount? Like you pay, a penny on every $8 that you spend. That means every single person that comes to Indiana to enjoy Lake Michigan and our beautiful beaches there is contributing to the conservation of the state. That means everybody that doesn't hunt or fish or have a consumptive license that enjoys seeing an eagle fly or listening to a quail whistle, like you're paying in a little bit now too. Like it's a collective reasoning for, a general betterment of society. If you ever had to pay a tax for anything, why wouldn't that be the one that you want to get behind?
And everyone coming to the Indy 500, they're contributing to conservation now. I mean,
every Colts game, every Pacers game, every Purdue game, every Notre Dame football game, every IU game, anybody that travels in, we're now capturing a little bit of their money and using it to make our state a little more beautiful. And that's what Missouri did. That's the genius of E. Sidney Stevens and Franklin Roosevelt and Leopold and that whole era of guys that they saved all this for us. And now it's on us to not let it slip away.
all right, sorry, my OCD will not allow me to go through this podcast without saying it was Matt Jennings, a Georgia-based hunting show host and influencer, was sentenced in July of this year for illegally killing 2 deer in Kansas, featuring their hunts on his YouTube show, The Game. Sorry. That was gonna drive me nuts not knowing that guy's name.
Got another knife in him.
Well, I mean, he did get a lifetime ban from hunting from Kansas, so I thought that was pretty cool.
I mean, seriously, we could make a list that would take you off the page if you numbered it of celebrity hunters who have had some kind of game violation. So there's also this beautiful thing called CaseNet where you can look anyone up. So the horrible trolls, I looked them up on CaseNet I want to know, like investigatively, like why have these people had their brains melt over how much they hate the Department of Conservation. And a gambling man would take the bet that there's a wildlife violation in their past if you look them up and search them on CaseNet and get into their legal history. And the loud ones, guess what? There's usually more than one. So it's there's no rocket science here to try to decipher. Like we know who's doing it, we know why. It's outfitters, it's people who make money off of deer. So there's one guy, very outspoken fella from the Salem, Missouri area, who's an outfitter. And I found, and he just never stops. He's one of the chosen few who spends his entire life damning the Department of Conservation online. But he's an artist as well. He makes these like cutout canoes. And I very politely said, I don't understand how you can be so mad at MDC when your website says you are a free range outfitter who cannot rely on the deer that live solely on your land. So you're hunting, you're letting people come in from out of state to pay you to sit on your small acreage to shoot the deer that are coming off of your neighbor's place. And you're saying in your marketing that there's a really good chance that you'll get a shot at a trophy buck, but you will get a shot at a buck and basically as many does as you want to kill. And you can pay me for the right to kill these free range deer coming off my neighbor's place. So I lay all that out to him and I'm like, so you actually make money off this resource and you take far more than the rest of us, but yet you want to damn the department that sets you up for that. Like, you're sitting here saying the hunting's good, pay me, come do my good hunting, but F the department. And then at the end I said, but your canoes are really cool. And he wrote back like how stupid I am and all this. And then at the end he said, but I'm glad you like the canoes. So.
Come to Missouri. Great hunting. It's fantastic. We'll get you a buck, possibly a big one. But MDC doesn't know what they're doing when it comes to managing deer.
Right. So it's these if you see these people that are just constantly berating MDC or any conservation initiatives.
That's every state, man. Every state has it.
But they can't spell bush or light the same cans they drop out of their truck on gravel roads every cruise they take. Like, the more bush lights you litter on the ground, the bigger of a man you are. And it's so clear. Like, high fence facility, outfitters, anybody profiting off of, the marketing of deer hunting. Those are the people that are against conservation. So not all people that are marketing, there's some good people out there. There's some good companies that do a ton for conservation that market the shit out of their products. I'm just saying that if somebody is that anti, they've either been arrested or they make money off of the resource.
Yeah, so you're saying more like the loud whistleblowers seem to be
more, or they think the earth is flat. I mean, or they're just pure flat earthers.
Flat herders. Remember, there's flat herders. That's what it is.
So, we digress.
I know this has just been turning into a CWD podcast.
So here's something fun. There's a guy in West Virginia, Charles Mooney. He's an outfitter on, how I've talked about squirrelishing in the past and Bayou Bill ciphers. He's deceased now, but Bayou Bill wrote the outdoor column for the Indianapolis Star for 50 years. Grew up down by the Muscatatuck in kind of south central Indiana, and he used to squirrelish, meaning he would float, fish, and squirrel hunt all at the same time. And I've done it a few times, but I want to include it in my 50 and 50 by 50. And West Virginia is known for their rivers. I saw Charles had a trip donated to BHA. I friended him on Facebook, thought I'll get a hold of him in the future sometimes. Lo and behold, Jameson just brings him up at this meeting the other night. He's like the chairman of the BHA board in West Virginia. And I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I just tried to link up with this guy online and I want to go float with him and do this. So Jameson made the introduction. He called, and now I'm going to go do this, and Jameson's going to go too. So we're going to just do a 2-day float, fish, squirrel hunt. So we'll.
You bring your raft?
No, he's an outfitter. So he's like, you can bring your raft, but I was like, no, dude, I'll sit in the front and shoot squirrels. He's like, perfect. So this trip is coming together pretty cool. Although Joseph Hawkins just bailed on me. He says he's got to save his money so he can pay me for the lot. I was like, that's right, buddy. You stay home. And I'm going to hit West Virginia for the squirrels and then hit Virginia for a deer at Colonial Williamsburg, and then hit Chesapeake Bay in Maryland for a historic duck hunt. So 1 week, it'll be my first 3-banger on the 50 and 50 list. But throw in Martha's Vineyard, and that'll give me my 4 for the year, which sets me up for my final 10.
Wow. When are you doing this trip?
December. I don't have a weekend till November, so December.
I hear you on that. My whole month of September is booked, and a lot of October as well with the wedding and everything.
Yeah, Charlie said you guys might be doing, we might be doing December, so I'm looking forward to that. Charlie's been outfitting on the new river and several other bodies of water in West Virginia for a long time. He's definitely a knowledgeable guy, as is his crew. I went over 2 years ago now, and he had a float trip set up with some of the DNR reps and a few others. And he's like, "Hey man, I want you to come over and take a raft down the river. We might have a couple of DNR reps or maybe a couple of camera people." And then I get there, he's like, "Oh, I'm putting Senator Manchin in your boat." I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" Really? He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, I told you I've not manned the oars on a river since I was in Wyoming like 20 years ago." It's like, "You'll be fine. Just follow us." And so I did. And we ended up boating the most fish. So I felt like I knew what the hell I was doing. It was kind of nice. Yeah. I told Manchin and he got in. He's like, "Hey, man, I've never been on this river." He's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, we're just going to follow them." He's like, "Okay." So, yeah, we caught a shitload of fish. It was great.
Wonder what that dude's doing now. I mean, he resigned from the Senate. There was supposed to be some big follow-up to that, but I haven't heard anything. Maybe he's one of the smart ones that isn't just begging for relevancy at 75 years old. He's just floating rivers now. Maybe he fell in love with rivers that day and bought some like quick dry shorts and river shoes, and that's all he does now.
Maybe he's a super nice guy. We didn't talk politics. We just talked fishing. So it was
God
nice
bless him if that's true, man. So
yeah.
Well, should we head to the mystery bait bucket question?
Yeah.
All right, Jameson, what you see here is a vintage antique bait bucket that this has been with us since episode 1. We bought this at the Midway Antique Mall here in Columbia. We like to wrap up the podcast with it. It's questions submitted by listeners, fans, family. Very rarely has to do anything with the outdoors. It's just a fun way to kind of wrap up the podcast. And if you'd like to submit a question, you can always email us info@driftvoodoutdoors.com or slip into our DMs on Facebook or Instagram, Driftwood Outdoors, or leave a comment on Driftwood Outdoors YouTube TV if you're watching this on YouTube. This one comes from Adam Peltzman. He asks, "What are you naturally bad at?" I can tell you right away what mine is. I can't pronounce anything. I really have a hard time speaking, which is funny, being my job as a radio host. I always joke, find the thing you're worst at and then make a career out of it. That me pronouncing words, or even names, I'm really, really bad at it. Naturally bad, have always been bad. Spelling is the same way. Just, I try to practice it. It doesn't help. I get it right in my head, and then I try to talk, and it just comes out all fumbled around. And I mean, it makes for great show content, because even me making an ass out of our current governor now, at the time it was Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, me trying to talk to him and just stepping all over myself, looking like a jerk off, that it's pretty comical at times of me trying to pronounce things. Or I'll like pull the ripcord, like the emergency exit in an airplane ejector seat on a word, and just try to find something that kind of sounds like it. Just do it that way. So I'm naturally really bad at pronouncing words.
Man, I can hop in. So I am bad at a couple things come to mind. First, kind of going along what you were saying, Shags, I'm bad at remembering names.
Oh, yes.
And I have to say your name at least 6 or 7 times, and I might remember it in an hour, but I might not. The next day, unless something really cool happened and it made a connection, I probably won't remember your name. But I've always been bad at that, and I shame myself for it, but it's just who I am. But it also makes me a bit more assertive at times, where I will walk up to the person. I've eaten enough humble pie in my life to say, "Hey, I am so sorry. I don't recall your name," and shake their hand and introduce myself again. And usually then I'll recall it. And then my second one is, man, I'm a piddler. So my wife gets on to me all the time. If I have the day off, I will start like 9 projects around the house, and I can see myself. I wish there's a time-lapse video of me, like from a drone, just watch me do these large circles around the yard or around the house, and like stopping occasionally and jacking with something, then going over here and jacking with something else. And I might get one finished over the course of a weekend, and then have the other 8 to pick up on the following. So
And I feel like with names too, the harder I try to remember it, the faster it will leave. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, right.
terrible with it too.
Jameson just stole mine straight up. It was, I'm pretty sure in today's day and age, they just call it ADHD, but mine is like not being able to finish one task before starting the next one. And same thing, man. Like, I'll catch myself now thinking, you left 20 minutes ago to go get a glass of water, and now you're like scattering rocks in the yard. Like, how did this happen? You know, I find myself on the other side of the pond, like sinking a post in a hole that I just cut with an auger, and I don't remember how I got there. It's just like one task. It's just, yeah, I feel like sometimes my brain is just a ping pong or a pinball machine, just
Yep.
everywhere. It's
2 weeks
horrible.
ago, I left the kitchen with like the heel of a sourdough loaf, and I was going to go give it to the chickens. I found it 2 days ago in my garage, up next to my hunting totes, just covered in mold. And I asked my wife later on that day 2 weeks ago, "Hey, I have misplaced this heel of sourdough. I was going to give it to the chickens, and I know I didn't. So keep your eyes open. I've laid it down somewhere."
Well, my empty nesting is it's interesting, man. I've been literally asleep before 9:30, I think, the last couple of nights. Yeah, I was sitting up till midnight every night for the last 3 years, at least, waiting for my girls to be home or waiting for them to go to sleep, or just talking to them at the end of the night. And now it's like, okay, I go to bed and turn the TV on and I'm asleep. So this morning I was up at 3:30 a.m. and there's just no, once I know I'm up, I'm up. But then I had to think to myself, like, you just slept 6 hours. That's a stretch for you. So same, dude. If I could wear some kind of like monitor that tracked me and told me all the things I accomplished today, and I am spiraling out of control in this chat GPT shit. Like, I'm knocking out so many things so fast that I've wanted to do for so long. If I had any kind of idea what I actually accomplished today, the list would be long and impressive. But my like pinball machine brain just doesn't even know what I did. I know the rocks are gone from behind my house. Like, I do know that. I made a process for how to do an e-newsletter, like on a template. I did all kinds of shit. But
Yeah.
Try to get it in that ping pong brain that I need you to bring that sprayer to
I know.
work so I
Well,
can spray all my weeds.
we are just going to get new ones for both facilities. So I'm just going to send the new one home with you to, you can be like the volunteer that figures out how it works, puts it together, has a good time with it. And I think by all you got to do is put the battery in the bottom of it. That's the whole gist of putting it together. But so you can have the brand new one to try. Mine's got a bunch of chemicals in it. I went out there to get it for you. So, but talking, we need some equipment for spraying around RFI. So I'll get a nice backpack sprayer with a battery, and you can break it in.
All right. After talking to Elsa with the Bee and Butterfly Foundation, I'm going to spray a bunch of my weeds in my big ditch in front of my house and turn them into native pollinators and natural flowers and grasses. So it's a process, man. I thought you could just burn it, and then I tried it once, like burned them all down and then just put some seeds down there, and I got a couple of them to pop up. But talking to her, like, no, as much as I didn't want to use glyphosate, or there I am pronouncing everything correctly again, but the super poison, the old Monsanto Agent Orange that we're supposed to spray on everything,
the ones that has billboards support glyphosate.
God, yeah, don't tell farmers what they can and can't use. Yeah, poison. Yeah, let farmers poison us. But I was trying to stay away from that. But talking to is like the only way you can do it to kill everything, and so I'm breaking down, and I'm going to get a sprayer and get out there and have my hazmat suit on so it doesn't absorb into my skin and my face and everything, and spray all my stuff.
Dude, I shot some Roundup in my eyeball the other day, and I was like, I'm going to write today down. Like, I'm just going to mark it down in a notebook. Like, this is the day that I caught cancer.
This is the day I grew a third eye.
Hopefully it takes 30 years to turn into something. But
that was a good episode with her. My last parks department was West Boggs Park in southern Indiana, and I had a grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and through Indiana called the Indiana Pollinator Initiative. We turned 8 acres of just mowed fescue into pollinator habitat. So listening to her podcast, like, oh yeah, I didn't know that either, Shags. In the beginning, you have to have a complete kill for this to really work. And you have so much money wrapped up into those seeds, you got to do it right the first time. Otherwise, it's just you're pissing money into the wind, and that kind of sucks. When we moved down here, I've been harvesting seeds from a lot of those different plants up there, and I brought them with me. And we have like 3.2 acres here, and a lot of it was already just kind of overgrown. So I went out there and, with limited funds, tried to eradicate what I could and broadcast a lot of those seeds. And I have a bunch of black-eyed Susans, some different cone flowers. And I've been my daughter and I every fall go out and spread the milkweed seeds. So that's kind of fun. She enjoys that, just kind of casting them out into the wind. But slowly, some of this property is turning into a pretty good pollinator habitat.
That's
It's nice.
awesome. All right, final thoughts, final cast of the pod.
Well, just thanks for what you do for BHA, man. It's great to have guys like you in the fight, and knowing that BHA is still out there and looking to grow into a kind of a new era, I think is exciting to see how it develops and where it goes. And with staff like you and people like those that were at that event the other night, I think, we still have some hope. So thanks.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for what you do in this podcast. I've been listening to it for a long time. My wife's from Southern Indiana, and I remember looking up people about how to learn how to fish some of the rivers, and I found you guys 5-6 years ago. So it's been listening ever since. So I appreciate what you do. Thanks for coming over. And last thing I'll say about BHA or just conservation in general is get involved. Whether it's BHA or if you're really keen on trout or whatever it might be, just get involved with conservation somehow, some way. It's the only way we're going to be able to kind of cherish and save what we have.
I mean, I'll put it in the links, the show notes as well, but where can people go if they want to join BHA?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, it's just backcountryhunters.org. And we're actually making a transition in about 2 weeks to a new website, but we'll always have a website live. So backcountryhunters.org. Inside that, you can find Getting Involved, which will just be your chapters. So if you want to see what your state's doing relevant to where you are at, you can look up each individual state chapter, look up events, look up blogs, see what they're doing as far as take action. That's one thing I didn't mention in the beginning that BHA is phenomenal at doing is we provide you a voice, whether it's a national policy issue like the recent public land grab led by the Utah senator, or if it's something very localized within your state. We do take action notices. We keep people apprised about what's going on, and we make our voices heard. We're a loud group, man. We are a loud people, and we like to make sure that people hear us.
Well, so certainly appreciate everything you're doing, and I'll put all that stuff in the show notes too. And thanks for hopping on with us. And gear review coming up next. Brandon, into the podcast, the beginning of a gear review. What are you reviewing for us today?
A prized possession. Ooh. So this is my new handcrafted paddle, my groomsman gift from Paddle Don. So it says, Brandon, many thanks and much love, brother. Paddle Don. So this is over 16 years in the making, I think. I can't remember if it's 16 or 17 years when I lost the first paddle he made me. But he came through in Paddle Don fashion. 16 years earlier than I thought I would get it. So congratulations on the wedding. It was a great time. I was honored to stand up for you. And yeah, pretty cool that Paddle Don exists because my kids gave him that name, the character. And he's giving out paddles at his wedding all these years later. I think it's awesome. It's a great dude and a cool gift, and I appreciate it.
Still waiting on mine. But speaking of weddings, the Savannah and I will be getting married in October. And if you're from mid-Missouri or Missouri alone, we're talking Betts Jewelers. We went in there today to pick out her wedding band to go with her engagement ring. And Robert and Rachel are great. They make it so easy, and it's pretty incredible. You go in there, and I understand why women enjoy it so much because it's so sparkly. You walk into a fancy jewelry store, and it's just sparkles everywhere. And I have my late father's wedding ring, and he was really nice enough to just clean it up, but not clean it up too much, so it still has that worn look on it. And he just put it in the little machine and shook the dirt out of it, and we're going to keep that one and get Savannah a new one. But Robert was just so good, and he makes it so easy. Savannah had gone in a little concerned that she was going to be overwhelmed or it was going to be too many choices, and she saw the one she wanted immediately and was like, that's it. And they're going to match it up with her engagement ring, and so the diamonds match, and they just make it so easy. So I can't say enough nice things. I mean, they've been around since like the early 40s. It's been generation and family handed down. So it's worth the trip. If you can hear this in your Missouri, if you want some jewelry, whether it be engagements or just anniversary or just a nice birthday gift or just a treat, stop by Betts Jewelers in downtown Columbia.
That's cool. You got your dad's ring, man.
Yep.
We'll see you down the trail.